Hi everyone, Julie here. I want to talk about ePortfolios and reflective and responsive practice using CSU Thinkspace. And this has become a key conversation point with many of the academics that we're talking to for the online learning model Scale Up. So I just want to explain what this is and how you can access this. So I want to share, what Thinkspace does, how you can share Thinkspace with your subjects, and also, perhaps cutting through some of those fears that you might have about using something that's beyond the Interact 2 interface. Reflective practice, there's a lot of course has been written about reflective practice. It's a learning by doing, learning from doing sort of approach. And there's one resource there that we use, reflective thinking, that you might like to dip into to learn more at some stage. So just thinking about Thinkspace, so this is an online publishing environment. It does use what's called a WordPress platform, and that's a well-used platform across the world. It is a platform that students can actually download their whole work and upload to their own WordPress platform once they've finished their degree. It does provide for different approaches, so you could call it a blog, you could call it a portfolio. If you want your students to publish on a website, it can do that for you, learning journal, etc. It can be completely open or partly open to the wider community, so it's not locked behind the Interact 2 wall, if that's what you want or if that's what the students want. It's great for student group-based activities. And for the online learning model, it particularly supports the e-assessment, interaction between students and teacher presence elements. This is the website when you log into thinkspace.csu.edu.au. You can see we've got over 3,000 of these portfolio spaces now and growing. It's a single sign-on, so you don't need to worry about passwords or anything. You sign on with your CSU login as usual, which makes it really easy. And then, of course, you can with your preferences and settings, you can decide whether it's public to outsiders, whether it's just for people who can sign on, or whether it's actually completely private to you. And I encourage you as staff to go in and set one up. And if you want to experiment, just keep it private. Nobody else will ever see it, but it's yours, and you can just work out what you might want to use it for. I want to draw your attention to the work of Judy O'Connell, who was instrumental in setting up Thinkspace across the School of Information Studies, which is now being adopted across the whole university. So Judy talks a lot about the use of communication, curation, collaboration, critical thinking and creativity. She has a slideshow that you can dip into, and I'll share another video that she created as well. So let's have a look at some ideas using Thinkspace. Two parts to this, so the whole implementation and then the management. So if you're going to implement Thinkspace, you need to plan ahead. And now we're designing subjects for the next session. We've got a couple of months ahead of us to do this design work as I create this video. But as you watch it in other sessions, just think you do need to plan ahead. Add the objectives to the subject outline. Tell students they will be setting up a CSU Thinkspace and the reason they'll be doing that and what they're going to use it for. As a course director or subject coordinator or subject convener or discipline person within the faculty, you might want to think about progressive implementation. What does using Thinkspace look like in first year subjects, second year subjects, third year, etc. And then, of course, think really seriously about linking this with assessment. How will your portfolio or journal linking with the assessment for your subject, and that blog reflective practice, how does that link in? Then we've got the management. Now, when students or you go in to set up a CSU Thinkspace, you can't actually find the URL. So you need to think about, well, how am I going to get those student URLs? Often I get students to post to a discussion forum to share their URL, or you can do it some other way. You can refer to the blogs in the discussion forums, of course. You can ask them to post their latest blog post URL so that you can access it quickly from the discussion forum. This whole encouragement of interaction, commenting, co-commenting on the blogs is really important. And you might want to set up blogging or portfolio buddies. Let me just show you what I do with this. I actually get students to fill in an online form. It's actually a Google form, which is really easy to set up. And they put their essential details in their blog URL. This pours into a Google spreadsheet, and I share this spreadsheet with the students. And you can see the colour coding now. I've actually, for this particular class, I put them into groups of 4. So with a large class or a medium-sized class, instead of saying, well, go and find other students' blogs and read them and comment on them, it's a bit sort of overwhelming. So I put the students into groups of 4, and for a period of, say, 6 to 8 weeks, those 4 students worked together. They read each other's blogs, they commented, co-commented, supported each other. They were, it was open to look at other blogs as well, but they created their own mini community of reflective practice for that period of time. Just looking at how a couple of subjects that I facilitate, what it looks like in the subject outline, and I'll encourage you to stop the recording at this stage so you can read this more carefully. I'm certainly not going to read this out, but this is an assessment reflective critical reflection post, which is worth 10% for the blog work. And then this particular subject where the students are requested to maintain a blog journal right throughout the subject and write an evaluative report based on that material. So they will go through and draw from their reflective blogs right throughout the subject, which are meant to be regular postings. So that's a couple of different approaches there. A couple of some student blogs that I would or journals I would recommend that you take a look at. There are 4 there. If you say, "Oh, what does this look like?" These are 4 of my top students, and I encourage you to dip into and just see what they're doing. These are completely open, though of course if you have CSU login, which you will have, you can go in just in case they have closed them off at this point. But I think they're pretty much open. So a couple of things I want to talk about in case you're feeling apprehensive, and let's get our heads above the clouds with this one and just align our thinking here. So yes, you may not be a blogger, or you may not have done reflective journal work yourself. You may not completely understand the need for it. Perhaps you're saying, well, I want them to write an essay, I want them to do an online quiz, that's it, don't need any more. But, just think about once again, the importance of reflective practice. And also, this is not just about posting material online for the sake of it. It's about that using the affordances of an online tool like Thinkspace to think more in digital formats. Students, it's not just about text. Students can embed videos, they can embed other things. They can actually create multimedia and use this Thinkspace platform as a way to share that multimedia as well. So I know with some of our conversations are heading towards, how can the students share their learning? And it's not just about sharing through an essay with a set of references. It's about other ways of sharing their learning. Another one that often comes at us is, I don't want to force my students to put things online, therefore will not be using this. So this is not about public exposure. As I've said a couple of times, how public you make these think spaces is entirely up to you and your students, or particularly up to the students. There is a choice. They can make them private and add you as the only person that sees it if that's what they want to do, if that's your intention as well. So don't think that these are out there immediately. Another one people say, of course, is you don't want to go outside the Interact 2 facility for interaction and assignments. But just remember, Thinkspace is a CSU endorsed and supported tool. There are ways that we can interface it with the Interact 2 facility, and because it is such a great tool, it has such facility. I really encourage you to think about using it, because we know some of the limitations of Interact 2, we know what it's good for, we know what it's not quite good for, and that whole journal piece in there is not as good as we want it to be. So go for Thinkspace. So 3 happy takeaways, just very quickly. Single sign-on, CSU supported platform, think online reflection, and think creative output. And all subjects, I have not seen a subject that doesn't afford this, afford digital creation of reflective and responsive artifacts. And Thinkspace is really the place to do that. And be bold. Don't let your past practices dictate your future practices. This is part of the OLM scale up. Is we're here to help you move into this new area. So consider Thinkspace for your subject and course and let learning fly. And just some places where you can find us as you continue with your OLM subject development. Thanks very much.